Tonight we begin in darkness, not just the kind that settles when the sun drops behind the hills, but the kind that comes when your skin goes hot, your breath shallow, and your whole body begins to feel like a storm is rolling through it. You're lying beneath a scratchy woven blanket that smells faintly of goats and smoke. Your mouth is dry, your forehead glistens. Someone nearby is whispering, someone else is boiling something. You are, quite clearly, not well. I'm the candlelight historian, and this is history as it was lived, unforgiving, unfiltered, and brutally real. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy these sleepy history journeys. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is where you are. It's always a little fascinating seeing who else is lying quietly in the dark across the world. Now, relax, take a slow, deep breath, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You don't remember when the shaking started, maybe sometime after sunset, or just before the fire burned down to its glowing heart. What you remember now is the heaviness, the way your body aches like you've been trampled by something large and careless. You try to lift your head but think better of it. There's a bowl of water nearby, and someone dips a cloth in it, then gently presses it to your neck. It's cold at first, a shocking kind of cold, but then your skin drinks it in like rain on dry ground. You try to open your eyes, and for a moment, the flickering firelight dances across the inside of your skull, like fireflies trapped in a jar. The healer is here. You don't know her name. Everyone just calls her the one who knows. She's older than smoke, bent like a willow in the wind, and she smells of crushed leaves and something sharp like vinegar. Her hands are always warm, even when the air isn't. She peers at you now, humming softly through her teeth, as if consulting some invisible book written only in her mind. You want to ask what's wrong, but the words tumble around your tongue like loose stones. She doesn't need words. She lifts your hand, feeling your pulse with her fingers. Her brow creases slightly. Then she turns to the pot hanging over the fire and ladles out something dark and steaming. You get only a whiff, bitter, earthy, a little like old bark, and maybe mushroom or wet fur. It's not comforting. She lifts your head gently and tips the bowl to your lips. You try to resist at first, but there's no real strength in you now. The liquid hits your tongue and your entire face tries to escape your own skull. It's foul, like someone boiled regret with a dash of dirt and a generous handful of sadness. You gag. She smiles. That's how you know it's working, someone says nearby. The next part is a blur. Someone rubs your chest with a paste that smells of mint and garlic. Someone else tucks hot stones into a cloth and lays them by your sides. You drift in and out. One moment you're in the hut, another you're floating somewhere above it, like a lazy bird circling the roof beams. You dream of things that may or may not be real. A goat wearing a crown, the moon falling into a basket, your mother singing a song you're sure she never knew. Sweat pools at the base of your spine. You shiver, then burn, then shiver again. Someone lifts your arm and places something beneath it. A slice of onion, maybe, or a coin. You're too far gone to ask why. Your breathing is shallow, but rhythmic. You hear your name. Someone says it like a question, like they're checking to see if you're still here. You aren't sure yourself. You feel like a sheet flapping on a line, thin, weightless, caught between waking and not. The night stretches on. You hear the wind outside, dry and quiet, brushing against the hut like a cat. Occasionally someone stirs the fire. Occasionally someone touches your forehead again. Once, you think you hear the healer chanting, low and steady, like she's reminding the fever that she's dealt with worse than this. Then, slowly, the storm begins to leave. The pain doesn't vanish, it simply moves to the edge of your awareness, like a bad smell in the next room. Your skin cools, your breathing deepens, your fingers uncurl, and you feel, not well, but not dying. You drift, finally, into true sleep. And for the first time all night, the room feels still. The healer stays, seated cross-legged near the fire, grinding something in a bowl just in case she needs it again. She doesn't speak. She just listens to the wood creaking, to the fire popping, and to the soft, wheezy breath of someone who just survived their first real fever without a single tablet, needle, or thermometer, just warmth, patience, leaves, and the steady hands of someone who's done this more times than she can count. Morning arrives, but it doesn't feel like a reward. The sun slips in as a pale stripe through the thatched roof, lighting up the dust in the air like a swarm of tiny spirits. Your eyes open reluctantly, and your body feels like it's been pickled in smoke and sleep. The fever is gone, or at least hiding, but something new has risen in its place. Your mouth. It started as a dull ache a few days ago, near the back of your jaw like a small pebble stuck between your teeth. You ignored it. Everyone does at first. But now, it's different. The pain has grown teeth of its own, and it bites from the inside. Your cheek feels warm to the touch. Not comforting warm, angry warm. As if your body is punishing you for chewing. You sit up slowly. The healer's already gone, probably off collecting bark or shouting at goats. But someone's left you a cup of warm water and a few strips of something chewy. Probably tree bark, possibly not food. You sip the water and immediately regret it. The ache flares up like a kicked hornet's nest. You don't scream, you just sit there with your jaw clenched, breathing like someone practicing how not to cry. Someone else notices. They peer at your face and say, with ancient wisdom, that side's a bit swollen. You nod grimly, pressing a palm to your cheek. There's a moment of silence. Then they add, helpfully, might be a tooth going bad. You're tempted to answer with sarcasm, but your tongue feels like a block of wood, and your jaw refuses to cooperate. Instead, you make a soft, helpless noise. Something between a grunt and a prayer. Eventually, the healer returns. She doesn't ask what's wrong. She just looks at your face, then gives a slow, knowing hum, the kind that could mean this is common or this is how people die. She rummages through her bundle of tools. Most of them look like gardening instruments. There's a crooked stick with a point, a small stone mallet, some cord, a sliver of something metallic, and a jawbone of an animal you don't want to identify. She sits beside you and lifts your chin like a sculptor inspecting flawed pottery. Then she does the one thing you truly dread. She taps the tooth. You jolt like lightning just crawled through your skull. She murmurs. Yes, she tells you it's not the worst she's seen. You are deeply unimpressed by this reassurance. Then comes the part you've been quietly fearing. She explains her options. 1. You can wait. Hope the swelling goes down. Rinse with salt water and chew on pine resin. Maybe the body will fix it. 2. She can try to ease it with herbs and pressure and a poultice made from something she insists used to be a mushroom. 3. Or she can take it out. She says the third option like she's offering you a choice of wine. You do not feel like drinking. Still, you nod. Slowly, the pain has already made your decision for you. She prepares the space, a stool, a cloth, to others to hold you steady, not tightly, just in case you get inspired to run. She dips a strip of fabric in something bitter and places it in your mouth. You gag. It's supposed to numb the area. It mostly just makes your tongue feel like a soggy leaf. Then she unwraps what you assume is her extraction tool. It looks like something you'd use to scrape old sap off a tree, or defend yourself from an enthusiastic weasel. She says it was passed down from her grandmother. You briefly wonder what her grandmother used it for before she became a healer. She presses your shoulder gently, meets your eyes, and says, "Hold still." The next few minutes blur. There's pressure, crunching, a sound that feels wrong inside your own skull. Something slips. Something else yanks. A sharp wave of pain so pure and clean it cuts straight through your vision like a lightning strike behind your eyes. You don't scream, mostly because you're too focused on not biting her fingers. Then, a pop, a tearing sound, a final tug, and it's out. You don't know what the tooth looks like, but someone gasps when they see it. The healer drops it into a clay bowl with a wet clink. She presses a wad of something soft into your mouth. Moss, cloth, magic, and tells you to bite down. You don't move for a long while. You sit there with your jaw aching, your heartbeat still loud in your ears, your palms slick with sweat. She pats your arm as if to say, "Congratulations, you've joined a long and miserable tradition." Later, someone boils barley and makes you a kind of paste to eat. It tastes like nothing. You're deeply grateful. That night, you don't sleep easily. But eventually, the pain dulls to a kind of echo. You lie on your back, breathing through your nose, your mouth packed gently with cloth soaked in herbs and vinegar. And as you drift off, you realize something strange. You survived, again. The day begins warm and still. A rare breeze rolls lazily through the grasses, carrying the scent of wild onions, wet clay, and the sharp tang of fish left too long in the sun. You're by the river, sleeves rolled, knees in the mud, working without much thought. The current whispers, the reeds rustle, and everything feels simple. Then you slip. It's quick, stupid. One misstep on a wet stone, one hand flying out to catch your fall. But it's not the fall that's the problem. It's the sharp edge of a broken pot hidden in the mud, waiting patiently to bite you. Your forearm opens like a ripe fruit. Not deep enough to see bone, but deep enough to see too much. The pain is immediate and angry, not the slow, swelling kind like a toothache, but a sudden shout in your nerves. You pull back instinctively, cradling your arm, watching blood begin to spill in fast little bursts that match your heartbeat. You don't scream. You just stare, wide-eyed and a little dumbstruck, like you've spilled soup and can't quite believe it's yours. Someone nearby sees it, shouts, runs. Within minutes, you're not alone. Hands on your shoulders, voices barking orders. Someone pulls off a sash and ties it tight just above the wound, too tight. You hiss, but they ignore you. Someone else grabs your wrist to raise the arm, while another shouts something about find the healer and bring the ash. There's movement, panic, but it's all happening to you, not by you. You're just a body now, a leaking, stunned body with a ruined sleeve and a growing stain of red. Eventually, they carry you home. You lie back, propped on old cushions that smell like sweat and sun. The healer returns, this time with a small pot of something black and powdery, and a bundle of rags that have definitely seen better lives. She doesn't speak, just kneels, takes your arm, and begins to clean the wound. The cloth stings, the ash stings more. You grit your teeth and taste cloth and blood. The healer mutters something, maybe a spell, maybe a recipe, as she pours warm water over your arm, wiping away the blood in firm, practiced motions. Then comes the moss. It's soft and damp and slightly green, the kind of thing you'd usually flick off your sandals. But today, it's being pressed gently into your open skin. It feels oddly soothing. Cool, not clean, exactly, but not dirty either. Like it belongs there. After that, she wraps it tightly. Layers of linen pulled from a long strip she keeps coiled around her waist like a belt. She ties it off with a knot that looks suspiciously decorative. Then she leans back and finally speaks. You'll keep the arm. You breathe out. That's good. You like that arm. But, she adds, you'll have to be careful. You nod, of course. No fighting bears. No rolling in the mud. No wrestling over old fish. The next few days are slow. You eat one-handed, sleep one-sided, dream of water and teeth and a pot buried in the earth, waiting for someone else's skin. The pain dulls from sharp to sore, then from sore to itchy, which, the healer says, is a good sign. You're not sure. It feels like fire ants throwing a festival beneath the bandage. Eventually, the wrappings come off. The wound is sealed now, puckered and pink, with a jagged little smile where your smooth skin used to be. Someone says it looks heroic. You think it looks like a worm with attitude. Still, you survived. No hospital, no stitches, no antiseptic wipes. Just fire-boiled water, ash, moss, and someone who knew what she was doing because her grandmother knew it before her. Your arm is stiff, but it moves. It aches, but it answers when called. You get back to the river, warier this time. When you kneel down and feel the cold splash against your fingers, you glance at the spot where you slipped. You don't blame the river. It was just doing what rivers do. But from now on, you wear shoes made of thick leather, even if they squeak and make you feel like a waddling duck. The morning light is gentle, soft yellow spilling across the packed earth floor like warm milk. Birds chatter lazily outside while smoke curls up from the hearth in thin grey ribbons. You sit near the wall on a woven mat that scratches your legs. Your arm is healing. The bandage has been changed again, and this time the cloth smelled like mint and salt. But something else is wrong now. Not pain, not fever, just a slow heaviness in your bones. A deep tired that sleep does not touch. It feels like your body is sinking into the ground inch by inch. You try to rise. Your knees creak. Your breath is shallow. You are not sick, exactly. But you are not well either. The healer arrives after midday. She does not speak right away, just nods at you and sets down her basket beside the fire. It is deep and wide, woven from reeds, filled with things that look like they were stolen from a garden and forgotten for a decade. She pulls out one root at a time, names them in her quiet rasp. Some are bitter, some are sweet. Some must never touch the tongue unless you want to see ghosts or lose your hearing. She smiles when she says that part. She selects 3, a crooked red root, a ball of dried leaves, and a bark so dark it looks like burned wood. She crushes them in a small stone bowl, adds a splash of oil from a clay jar, a bit of water from the river. The mixture turns thick and brown. It smells like rain on old stone and something faintly peppery. She gives you a spoonful. You hesitate. She lifts an eyebrow. You take it. The taste is not pleasant, but not awful either. It coats your mouth, leaves a tingle on your tongue like distant thunder. She nods. Good. Then gives you another. She wraps the rest of the mixture in cloth and hangs it near the fire. Come back in 2 days, she says. Rest, drink water, avoid meat. No loud thoughts either. She does not explain what that means. You do as you are told. You sleep more. You drink bitter tea. You sit in the sun and watch the chickens argue with each other over nothing at all. Slowly, the heaviness begins to lift. It does not fly away. It drifts, like mist burning off at midday. 2 days pass. You return to the healer. She checks your tongue, your eyes, taps your chest with her fingers, then gives you a nod that could mean many things, but probably means not dead. She gives you a little pouch of dried petals and tells you to keep it under your sleeping mat. Not for healing, for balance. You do not ask what that means either. That night you sleep deeper. Your dreams are slower. No racing, no falling. Just warm places and soft voices and a sky that goes on forever. You survived again, not with surgery, not with injections, but with old plants, older wisdom, and a woman who keeps secrets in a basket woven from reeds. It started with a pear, or what you thought was a pear. It looked like one. It smelled like one, but it had a strange texture and a bitter aftertaste. Still, you were hungry, and it was growing on the edge of the village, and no one had claimed it. That was this morning. Now it is evening, and your stomach is planning a rebellion. You lie curled on your side. Every few minutes a new wave rolls through your gut. Not the sharp pain of a wound. No, this is worse. It feels like something angry is trapped inside and wants out. You groan, then groan again. Someone hands you a cup of water. You shake your head. You do not trust water anymore. Not today. The healer is called. She arrives with her basket. Always the basket. She does not look surprised. She just clicks her tongue softly and begins sorting through her supplies. She mutters something about foolish stomachs and fruit that grows too close to the ground. She gives you a small lump of clay. Yes, clay, you are to chew it. Slowly, do not swallow too fast. It tastes like dust, an old river, but it calms the chaos a little, or maybe distracts you just enough to stop shaking. Next comes a tea. It simmers on the fire while she grinds seeds with a flat stone. The smell is strong, sharp. It bites your nose, but in a way that makes you think it might help. When it is ready, she pours it into a small wooden cup and presses it into your hands. Drink all of it, you do. Because you have no pride left, only pain. The tea is bitter, very bitter, but it warms your belly. For a moment, you feel something shift, like a knot loosening. You breathe, carefully. The healer watches your face. Then she nods. You will live. She tucks more seeds into a pouch and tells you to chew one every hour until the pain is gone. Not two, just one. Or you might stop being able to blink. You believe her completely. The worst passes by morning. You are weak but steady. You sip more tea. You chew your seed. You vow never to eat anything unless at least 3 other people eat it first. The healer tells you not to eat pears anymore. You do not argue. Later that day, she gives you a paste made from honey and crushed flowers. For your tongue, she says, to sweeten your words. You do not know if she is joking. You rest under a tree, your stomach quiet for the first time in a day. The wind is warm, the sun gentle. You feel like a ship that has survived a storm and finally sees shore. You close your eyes and you make a new rule. If something tastes strange, spit it out. Wisdom does not always arrive with age. Sometimes it arrives with cramps, regret, and an old woman shaking her head while boiling seeds. The wind has changed. It carries the bite of cold now. Not sharp enough to sting your skin, but enough to make your bones whisper when you rise in the morning. You wrap your cloak tighter. You drink warm broth. You sleep a little more. But the air is dry. Your throat feels like sandpaper, and you start to cough. It begins as a tickle, just a sound you make when the dust gets in. You try not to think much of it, but after a few days, the tickle turns rough, then deep. Then it stops sounding like a cough and starts sounding like something trying to escape. You are not the only one. 2 others in your home cough through the night. The fire helps, but only a little. The smoke sometimes makes it worse. You try honey. You try hot stones wrapped in cloth. You chew a sprig of something sharp and green. But the cough does not leave. It stays. The healer arrives again. She does not bother with her basket this time. She just brings a jar. Inside is thick golden liquid. It smells like honey and spice and something bitter underneath. She gives you a spoonful and tells you to sit by the fire, but not too close. You nod and cough. She places a pot near the coals, fills it with water, then tosses in bark, dried petals, crushed seeds. The steam smells sweet, like flowers mixed with something earthy. You lean over the pot with a cloth draped over your head and let the steam rise up into your face. Your eyes water, your skin sweats, but your chest begins to loosen. At night, she gives you a cloth soaked in warm oil. She lays it across your chest and wraps you tightly with another layer of fabric. You feel like a bundle of herbs on a shelf, but you sleep better. The coughing does not wake you as often. Days pass. The cough lingers. It is not gone, but it is quieter, weaker, like a dog too tired to bark. You sit outside now in the sunlight, wrapped in a blanket, watching birds flutter near the cooking pots. You cough still, but only once, maybe twice. The healer says you must stay away from smoke, from cold air, from loud talking and loud thinking. She is still not explaining that part. She leaves you a jar of the golden syrup and another cloth. This one has been soaked in vinegar and herbs for your chest when it aches. She tells you to keep it wrapped in dry leaves so the spirits do not find it. You decide not to ask questions today. By the end of the week, you can speak without coughing. You still sound like someone who swallowed sand, but it is better. The others in your home recover too, slowly, like leaves turning back toward the sun. You survived again. No pills, no medicine in bottles. Just warmth, steam, oil, and a healer who knows how to make breath return to tired lungs. You thank her with a jar of honey and a quiet nod. She accepts both. You hear the scream before you see what happened. A sharp sound that slices through the late afternoon calm like a stone through still water. Everyone turns. You run. Down near the edge of the clearing, your friend is lying in the dust, one leg twisted in a way that legs are not meant to twist. His face is pale and wet with sweat. His hands are gripping his tunic like he's trying to tear it apart. He does not speak. He just groans, low and steady. The sound of someone trying not to drown in pain. Someone says he fell from a tree. Another says he tripped over a goat. It does not matter. His leg is broken. The healer arrives faster than you expect. She always seems to know. She kneels beside him, not rushing, not panicking, just watching. Then gently touches his ankle. He yells. Then again, higher up. Another yell. She nods. The bone is not through the skin. That is good. She says this like she is listing ingredients in a stew. Then she sends someone to fetch a plank of wood. Someone else brings strips of cloth. Another runs for the hot water. You stay, you hold your friend's hand. He squeezes it like a man holding on to the earth. She gives him something to chew, a root, bitter and strong, to help him forget for a little while. He chews like his life depends on it. Maybe it does. She presses his legs straight. The sound is not loud, but you feel it in your spine. He screams once more, then goes silent. Not from peace, from exhaustion. The root begins to do its work. She places 2 pieces of wood along the leg, wraps it tight, not too tight, just enough to hold it in place. She murmurs as she works, a mix of words and sound, not quite singing, not quite talking, maybe for him, maybe for her. When she is done, she wipes her hands on her tunic and tells you to help carry him inside. Slowly, carefully, he wakes up once, asks if the goat is all right. You tell him yes. Even though there was no goat, for days he does not move much. She checks the leg each morning, feels for heat, watches for swelling, makes sure the pain does not grow teeth again. He eats soft food, sleeps often. The root helps. After a week, he begins to sit up. After 2, he moves with a stick. By the end of the month, he walks, limping, but walking. She tells him he will always walk with the memory of the fall. But the leg is strong. The pain will fade. The story will remain. You look at him now and see the line of cloth scars down his calf, the places where the wood pressed and the healing happened. You remember the scream and the silence after, and how a broken thing was held together not with machines, not with clean white rooms, but with fire-warmed cloth and quiet hands. You survived again, even when it was not your body that broke. It happens fast. Most injuries do. One moment you are reaching for a pot of boiling water. The next, your hand brushes the iron rim. The heat bites hard and deep. You do not even feel it at first. Just surprise, a flash of confusion. Then the pain arrives. Not in a rush, but as a steady rising wave that swallows the whole hand and keeps going. You pull away, stumble back, shake your hand without thinking. The air stings worse than the iron. You clutch your wrist, try not to cry out, but a sound escapes anyway. Low and sharp and desperate, someone brings water. Not cold, just cool. They pour it over your hand and it helps for a moment, but only a moment. The skin is already changing, blistering, turning red and shiny. You feel the heat pulsing out of your hand like a second heartbeat. Every breath becomes a chore, every movement a mistake. The healer is called again. When she sees your hand, she does not look surprised. She has seen burns before. Too many. Fires are helpful, until they are not. She sits beside you and begins her work. First, she washes it, not with soap, with water boiled and cooled. She does not scrub. She pats, gently, slowly. The water soothes a little, enough for you to unclench your jaw. Then she brings out the paste. It is thick, creamy, pale green, made from crushed plant leaves and animal fat. It smells odd. Not bad, just unfamiliar, like old grass and something sharp underneath. She spreads it on your hand with the back of a wooden spoon. The coolness sinks into your skin. You exhale without meaning to. It is not healing, not yet, but it is relief. And that is something. She wraps your hand in soft cloth, ties it loosely, then tells you to keep it dry, keep it still. No fire tending, no lifting, no foolishness. Her tone says she means it. The next few days are uncomfortable. The skin tightens, then itches. You try not to scratch. You fail once or twice. She scolds you gently, replaces the bandage, adds more paste. Each day it gets a little better. The pain fades. The swelling softens. The skin stops looking like angry fruit and starts looking like it belongs to you again. One morning, you wake and forget it is burned at all. You reach for something with your full hand and only remember when it stretches. The ache is dull. Not gone, but manageable. The healer unwraps it one final time and nods. New skin, pink and smooth and strange. It will darken, it will scar, but it is whole. You flex your fingers. Slowly, you feel the stretch. The memory, but not the fire. You survived again. Not with ointments from a box. Not with silver tools or glowing machines. Just with plants, patience, and a woman who has watched skin grow back more times than she can count. Later that evening, you sit by the same fire that burned you. You watch it dance and crackle. You hold your hand near, not too close. You are not afraid, just respectful. That is enough. The baby is not crying. That is the first thing you notice. The stillness, the quiet. Normally, the child's voice fills the hut like smoke fills the rafters. Soft grumbles, hiccuping laughter, the occasional wild shriek that lets everyone within 3 houses know he's discovered his own feet again. But today, silence. He lies against your chest, warm but limp. Not sleeping, not screaming, just there. His breath is shallow. His skin is too hot. His fingers curl and uncurl like little worms in slow motion. He does not want food. He does not want milk. He does not want anything. You feel a wave of fear. Not the sharp kind, like when your foot slips near the river or your hand brushes fire. This is slower, heavier, like a stone tied to your chest and dropped into deep water. You rock him, whisper to him. Press your cheek to his head and hope he stirs. He does not. The healer comes quickly this time. Someone ran to get her while you wrapped the baby in soft cloth and sat by the door. Whispering his name like it was a spell, she kneels beside you. Her hands are already reaching. She does not waste time. She checks his breath, his eyes, his lips. She presses her ear to his chest. She listens for something, anything. She does not frown, but she is quiet longer than usual. You ask her what is wrong. She says softly, too hot, too fast. We must cool him. She begins to work. She sends for cool water. Not cold, just cool. A clean cloth. A bowl of ground bark and petals that she mixes with water and applies to his forehead in small, gentle circles. He does not flinch. He does not protest. That frightens you more than any scream could. She loosens his wrap, lays him on soft cloth, opens the window flap to let the breeze in. She fans him slowly, not hard, just enough to stir the air. She mixes a drink, boiled water, crushed mint, a small drop of honey. She dips her finger in it and lets it touch his lips. Nothing, then again, and again, until his tongue flicks out, slow and dry. She coaxes him, one drop at a time. You sit there and hold your breath while the minutes pass like hours. She hums a low tune, something without words. A lullaby meant more for the mother than the child. He stirs, only slightly, a twitch, a sigh. But it is enough. She looks at you and says, he is still in the fight. She continues to cool him, gently, patiently, replacing the cloth, fanning, letting the air carry away the fever one breath at a time. By evening, his skin is not as hot. His lips are not as pale. He begins to murmur, a soft sound, weak but alive. She smiles and says, "Now we rest." She does not leave. She sleeps in a corner, seated upright with her cloak wrapped around her like a bird in its nest. You wake many times that night. You check him each time. He sleeps beside you, small, fragile, but breathing. In the morning, he cries, loud, unapologetic, wild, and you laugh through your tears. The healer gives him more of the honey drink. Then she checks his chest again, listens to his heartbeat, watches his fingers grab her thumb with surprising strength. She tells you he will be tired for a few days, but he is well. You thank her, not with words, but with everything in you. She nods, packs up her things, says something about strong spirits and stubborn babies. You spend the day beside him, feeding him, holding him, watching him blink and stretch like he's returning from a place far away. You wonder how many children never return. The healer once said that healing is not always about fighting sickness. Sometimes it is about giving the body a little more time, a little more strength, a little more hope. Today you had all three. You survived again, so did he. You could not sleep. Not really. Even though the baby's fever broke 2 nights ago and his cries now echo with strength, you still wake in the middle of the night. The coals in the fire pit are glowing low. The hut is still and quiet. Everyone else is sleeping, but not you. Your chest is tight. Not with illness, with something else. A feeling you cannot name. Fear, maybe, or weariness, or something older, something more ancient than even the healer's roots and remedies. So you rise, quietly, carefully, stepping between mats and baskets. You take your cloak and leave through the doorway. The night air is cool. The ground is soft beneath your feet. The village is hushed, but not silent. A dog coughs. An owl calls out in the distance. Somewhere a baby cries and is quickly soothed. Life everywhere, still breathing. You do not go to the healer this time. You go beyond the village, past the fences, past the outer path lined with river stones and old herbs. You follow the trail that bends through the trees, up the gentle slope where wildflowers grow in tangled clumps even when no one plants them. You go to the shrine. It is not a temple. There are no tall walls or painted statues. It is a hollow tree, broad and split near the base, with offerings tucked inside. Shells, beads, tiny carvings, scraps of cloth tied with frayed string, bones, all tokens from others who have come here quietly, in the hours when no one else is watching. You have been here before, but not recently. You kneel. There are no prayers to say. None you remember, anyway. So you speak simply. You say thank you to the sky, to the ground, to whatever listens. You place your offering inside the tree, a small braid of grass, woven this afternoon when the baby finally fell asleep in your arms and the world felt just a little lighter again. You sit there in the dark for a while, letting your breath slow, letting your shoulders drop, letting your fear drain quietly into the earth. After some time, someone else arrives. It's an old man from the far edge of the village. You do not know him well. He limps, carries a bundle under one arm. He nods to you but says nothing. Just kneels beside the tree and places something inside. You both sit there in silence. 2 people with quiet pain. 2 people who needed to be somewhere where medicine has no reach. There is a peace to this place. Not the peace of healing. The peace of surrender. Of release. Of knowing that some things are not fixed. They are simply carried. When the wind picks up, it moves through the grass like breath. You pull your cloak tighter. The old man stands. So do you. Before he leaves, he says, "Sometimes we need the things that do not speak." You nod. The walk back is slower. The village is still asleep. You step inside the hut and settle beside the baby. His cheeks are full of color now. His breath is steady. His fist is curled around the edge of the blanket, like he is ready to fight the world all over again. You lie down, and finally, sleep comes. The healer may have saved his body, but the shrine helped heal something else. Something inside you, and that counts too. You survived again. Not from a wound, not from fever, but from the quiet ache that builds in the bones of the worried, the tired, the ones who love. It starts on your arm, a patch of skin near your elbow that feels wrong, not painful, not warm, just itchy. The kind of itch that makes you want to scratch until the skin peels off like old bark. You try to ignore it. You tell yourself it's nothing, just a bug bite. Maybe something from the grass or a corner of your bedding that hasn't been cleaned since last harvest. You rub it through your tunic, lightly at first, then harder, then again. By evening, the skin is red. Angry, slightly raised, it has begun to spread. You say nothing that night. The next morning, it is worse. It has climbed toward your shoulder. And now your neck itches too, the spot behind your ear. And when you roll up your sleeves, you see more patches, small, pink, faintly cracked, like dried clay. You scratch, and it helps for one glorious second. Then it burns, and then itches even more. The healer is called again. She arrives with a cloth pressed to her face. She does not sit beside you this time. She squints at your skin from a small distance. Her mouth tightens into a thin line. She mutters something about rash spirits and angry leaves. She opens her pouch and pulls out a pot of grey salve. Smells like vinegar and something sour. She tells you to stop scratching. You nod, then immediately scratch. She slaps your hand, not unkindly. You hold still while she applies the salve. It stings, then cools, then stings again. You wince. She says good. That means it is working. She gives you instructions. Wash with salt water twice a day. Avoid wool. Avoid sweat. No fish. No mushrooms. No lying on the left side of your body. You nod. She adds a cloth bundle filled with herbs and says you must burn it near your sleeping mat each night. The smoke will chase off whatever is trying to live inside your skin. You follow her instructions. Mostly. The salt water is brutal. The rash hates it, which probably means it's helping. The smoke smells strange, like burnt tea, but it does seem to calm the itch when it swirls through the air and into the corners of the hut. Others begin to notice. One person scratches their arm and gives you a look. You sleep farther from the rest that night, just in case. Days pass. The rash slows, stops spreading, begins to fade, not quickly but steadily. The redness turns pale, the itching weakens. You stop needing to scratch at every moment. Your fingernails return to normal color. The scabs dry and fall away like old leaves. One evening, the healer returns to check you again. She inspects your skin, sniffs your wrist, rubs a bit of salve on the last stubborn patch, then steps back and declares you mostly clean. She tells you to stop sleeping in the same blanket you've had since you were a child. You pretend to agree. As she packs her things, she says something odd. Sometimes the body itches, not because of what touches it, but because of what it remembers. You do not know what that means, but you nod anyway. That night, you sleep without burning the herb bundle. You lie on your back, the air is cool, your arms are still. No need to scratch, no crawling sensation under the skin. You survived again, not from poison or fever or flame, but from something smaller, something invisible, something ancient. The kind of illness that does not kill, just makes you wish it would for a few restless nights. And now it is gone, and you are not. It happens slowly, not like a cut, not like a burn or a cough or a fever. Aging arrives quietly, like dust gathering in corners. It does not shout, it whispers. And then one day you bend over to pick something up, and your knees sound like dry twigs, snapping in a bundle. The first sign is your hands. They ache in the morning. You wake with your fingers curled in tight little fists, and they do not want to uncurl, not quickly, not without a negotiation. You rub them, one against the other, like you're trying to light a fire. It helps a little. Then it's your back. The ground seems farther away than it used to. You used to spring up from a squat without thinking. Now you grunt. Sometimes you groan. You pause halfway, pretending to inspect something important, so no one notices you are just trying to survive gravity. You notice your vision too. Tiny letters blur. Threads on your tunic seem harder to follow. You hold things closer, then farther, then squint like the sun is always just behind them. Someone laughs. You pretend you are doing it on purpose. You go to the healer, not because anything is broken, but because everything feels just slightly off. She looks at you, squints, then reaches for her basket without asking a single question. She pulls out a bundle of dried leaves tied in twine and says, "Chew these with breakfast." You ask what they do. She says they will not make you younger, but they will make you less angry about not being younger. You take them home. You chew the leaves. You stretch more in the mornings. You walk slower, but you walk longer. You notice the sun more, and the way the light moves through the trees in the late afternoon. You start waking before the others, not because you want to, but because your body says so. So you sit quietly and watch the fire. You enjoy the quiet now. There was a time when silence made you restless. Now it feels like a companion. The healer visits again a few weeks later. She watches you rise from a seated position and says, "Your knees sound like mine now." You nod. She hands you a jar of ointment. It smells like mint and mud. "Rub it into your joints," she says. "Before sleep, after waking, when it rains." You do as you're told, and it helps. Not completely, but enough to make the days feel less stiff, the walks less heavy, the mornings more manageable. Your hair begins to change. At first, 1 or 2 strands, lighter, grayer, now whole patches. You run your fingers through it, and some stays in your hand. You show it to no one. You bury the hair under a stone like it is a secret. One evening, while helping a child fix a strap on their sandal, you notice how small their hands are compared to yours, how soft, how quick. You smile, then groan as you stand back up. They giggle. You pretend to chase them with your aching legs, and they scream with delight. That night, your knees ache more than usual, but your chest feels light. The healer brings you another bundle of herbs, this one to steep in hot water. You ask what it is for. She says, "For the thoughts that become heavier than your body." You drink it slowly. It tastes like dirt and memory, and something else. Something warm. A season passes, then another. You do not run anymore, but you do not need to. You listen more than you talk. You breathe slower. When others speak, you hear more than their words. You feel their worry, their joy, their tired bones. The healer nods at you now as an equal. She no longer gives you instructions, just gifts. And when younger ones in the village complain of aches and sniffles, she sometimes points them toward you. Ask them, she says. They know the pain well. Do you smile? Because it is true. You survived again, not from a sickness this time, but from the slow turning of the years, from the creeping weight of time. And though you feel each step in your joints and see each line on your face, you are still here, and that is enough. It began with dizziness, not the kind that comes after standing too fast. This was different, deeper, like the ground tilted beneath you without permission, like your blood had forgotten which way to flow. You sat down quickly, then lay down. Then someone called your name, but you could not answer because your tongue felt thick and slow and distant from your mouth. They thought you were just tired, until you stopped responding. Then they called for the healer. You do not remember her arriving, you only remember flashes. The ceiling above you, her shadow passing across your eyes, the smell of something sharp, something burned, a whisper you couldn't quite catch. Then darkness, not sleep, not unconsciousness. Something else, floating, not peaceful, not frightening, just distant, like watching someone else's dream through a heavy curtain. You remember the feeling of being pulled, backward, downward, or maybe upward. You couldn't tell. Someone was calling you, not with words, just presence, a warmth, a pressure on your hand, and then pain, sharp, sudden, real. You gasped. The world rushed in, smells, sounds. The healer's face hovering over you, sweat beading on her forehead, a cloth in her hands, blood on her arms, your chest rising and falling like you had just escaped drowning. You were alive, but barely. The days after that blurred together. You lay in bed, blankets piled high, water offered by careful hands, herbs pressed to your lips, paste spread across your chest, the healer's voice in your ear every morning. Still here, she would say, still stubborn. Your skin was pale, your limbs thin. You ate only soup, drank only tea, but you were breathing. That was enough. Later, when you could speak again, someone told you what had happened. You had collapsed in the morning, eyes wide and unblinking. Your heart slowed to almost nothing. Your skin turned grey. They thought you were gone. The healer refused to accept it. She burned herbs that are only burned in rare times. She chanted. She placed her hands on your chest and whispered something old. She slapped your face. She poured vinegar near your nose. She called your name again and again until your fingers twitched and your breath caught in your throat. She told them, they are not finished yet. And she was right. You ask her what she thinks it was. She shrugs. Maybe a fever, maybe poison, maybe the body simply forgot itself for a moment. You ask her what she did. She says, everything I could. Then she says, quietly, you are allowed to leave. But you didn't. And that means you're still needed. You do not know what that means, but you take it seriously. In the following weeks, your strength returns. First, your voice, then your appetite, then your legs. You walk again, slowly. At first, just to the door, then to the fire, then down to the river, where the air smells like water and sunlight. You sit on a rock and feel the wind on your face and wonder how close you truly were to leaving this world. There is a strange calm in you now, not fear, not joy, just a stillness. Like you passed through something most people only see from a distance. Like you touched the edge of something vast and came back. The healer nods when she sees you walking again. No words, just a small, quiet smile. She has seen people return before, not many, but enough to recognize the look in your eyes. The look of someone who has been almost nothing and chosen to be something again. You survived again. This time, you do not know how. Not fully, but you did. And now, every breath feels borrowed. And every moment feels like a gift given without a reason. There comes a day when the healer does not visit anymore. Not because she has stopped caring, but because she does not need to. Your legs carry you now. Your joints still ache. Your breath still catches on cold mornings, but your steps are sure. You still feel the weight of time, but you are not bowing under it. You have become something else, something more than simply the one who lived. You are now one of the old ones. It feels strange at first to be asked for advice, to be the one others lean on, to hear a young voice call your name, not for a task, but for a question. What do I do when the baby coughs? What do I chew when my stomach turns? How long do I wait before I worry? And somehow you have the answers. Not all of them, not with certainty, but with experience. You remember. You remember the bitterness of roots and the sting of vinegar, and the way the healer once rubbed your chest with oil as you coughed into the firelight. You remember how the clay tasted when your insides rebelled, and how moss pressed to a bleeding arm can stop the world from slipping away. So you pass it on. You tie herbs into bundles and tell them where to hang them. You teach the children how to blow gently across a cup of hot tea so they do not burn their lips. You show them how to feel the forehead, not just with the palm, but with the back of the hand, so they know heat from warmth. You are no longer afraid to speak slowly, no longer afraid of silence. Sometimes the most important thing you say is nothing at all. Just sitting with someone, your presence like a stone at the edge of a river, unmoved, but shaping everything around it. The healer still walks through the village, but her hair is thinner now, her pace slower. One day, she comes to your door, not with her basket, but with an empty jar and a tired smile. She sits beside you and rests her legs. You make her tea, not perfect, a little too strong, but she drinks it anyway. She says nothing for a long time. Then she tells you she will not be doing this much longer. Her hands tremble when she ties knots now. Her knees complain louder than the patience. You ask what will happen when she stops. She says simply, "You will happen." At first, you laugh, but she does not. You look down at your hands, the same hands that once clenched with fever, that once bled from the river's broken edge, that once cradled a burning child. They are lined and calloused, but they are strong. You ask her if she really thinks you can heal. She says, "I think you already have." She leaves the jar behind, says it is for you now, to keep things in, roots, ash, honey, or maybe just silence. In the weeks that follow, people begin coming to your door more often, some for help, some just to sit. You do not call yourself a healer, but others begin to say it, quietly, with hope. You do not make promises. You do what the old ones always did. You offer warmth. You offer stories. You offer the things you learned through pain and patience. And now, when someone falls, it is your hands that steady them. When someone coughs through the night, It is your tea they drink in the morning, when someone wakes with a fever. It is your cloth that soaks in the cool water. You survived again, but more than that, you became something the old ones knew was possible. A keeper of memory, a witness to pain, a quiet presence that reminds others. The body may break, but it can mend. The spirit may tremble, but it can rise. The healer is not always the one with the basket. Sometimes, the healer is simply the one who stayed. You feel it before it arrives, not in your bones, not in your breath, but in the silence that settles around your days, in the way the sunlight seems softer now, in how people speak to you a little more gently, in the way their eyes linger on you when they think you are not looking. Time has been generous. It did not rush, it walked beside you, and now it begins to hum a slower tune. You rise later in the morning, not because you are lazy, but because the world no longer expects you to hurry. You sit longer by the fire. You listen more to the wind and less to the chatter. You find peace in the rhythm of small things, the crackle of wood, the creak of a stool, the way a cup fits perfectly between your palms. Your body still works, but it argues more now. Your legs take convincing. Your fingers sometimes forget their cleverness. You speak less, not because you have nothing to say, but because silence often says it better. The healer no longer visits, and no one expects her to. She has passed her basket on, and others carry it now. They walk through the village with jars and cloths, mixing salves and wrapping arms, and occasionally glancing in your direction as if to check that you approve. You do. You taught them well. The young ones sit by your feet now, eyes wide, asking questions that have no right answers. How do you know when someone is too sick to save? How do you make someone feel less afraid? Why do people sometimes cry when they get better? You answer as best you can. You tell them healing is not fixing. It is standing beside. It is showing someone their body still belongs to them, that they are not alone, that pain is not failure, that survival is not always loud or brave or beautiful. Sometimes survival is quiet. Sometimes it looks just like this. You walk less often now. Your mat is near the window. You lie in the sun and feel the warmth soak into your skin like old memories. Your dreams are softer, full of faces you have known, places you have not seen in years. A river, a fire, a bundle of herbs that smells like hope. You eat less, drink slowly, speak only when it matters, and one night your breath slows, not with fear, with rest. The kind of rest that follows a full life, a body that carried wounds and kept moving, a spirit that bent but did not break, a story that began with fever and fire and now ends with peace. They will find you in the morning, still and quiet, wrapped in your favorite cloth, a faint smile on your face, and they will know you did not vanish. You became something more, a whisper in the walls, a warmth in the tea, a hand on a shoulder when the world becomes too heavy. They will light a candle, say your name, wrap your memory in soft cloth and carry it gently into the stories they tell, because you survived again and again, and now you rest. And now the fire is low, the mat beneath you is warm, your limbs are still. Your breath moves like waves, soft and steady, rising and falling, as if the world itself is breathing with you. The hut is quiet. The stars blink slowly above the thatched roof. Everything that needs to be said has been said. You have walked far tonight, through fevers and broken bones, through herbs and healing hands, through pain and recovery and the long, quiet work of staying alive in a world without medicine, without modern comfort. And still, you made it. Again and again, your body remembered how to hold on, how to mend, how to begin again, even when it had every reason not to. You can rest now. There is nothing more to do. No more fires to tend, no more cloth to wrap, no more aching questions to answer. Just the soft hush of sleep, like a blanket pulled gently over your thoughts. Let the worries fall from your shoulders. Let your mind slip into dreams, quiet and safe. Imagine the flicker of a candle in the corner, the scent of lavender and old wood. Imagine someone watching over you, a hand on your brow, a bowl of warm tea waiting nearby, just in case. You are safe. You are cared for. You are still here. Close your eyes. Breathe. Let the story fade. Let the silence hold you. You are whole. You are home. You are healing, even now. Good night.